I wonder if my theory is correct that when you have a situation like this, water in a pool, then what you've got is absolutely infinite variability, but within restraints, right? There's just, what would it be, the weight of the water, the viscosity or something, probably, and the wind. You never see exactly the same thing twice. This is what I was trying to get at. Oops. Sticking to my no film people. Especially wouldn't want to film them if they didn't want me to in the pool. I bet it's true that if you look to people who seek out water, I bet a lot of them are in trouble. Mostly people just do it for relaxation, fun, Duolingo Max is pretty good. Seriously good. You can have conversations with it. You can have conversation with some artificial intelligence technologies, and it's pretty damn good. Really. Yeah, my God. Because you lose motivation if studying a language doesn't seem useful and fun and effective. Interesting and fun is the most important. Like, in a way, when you're studying a language, you shouldn't care what your level is. You shouldn't think of it that way. You should think about whether what you're studying is useful and fun and interesting to you. It being interesting is the most important thing. But it can't be so interesting it's not language studies. There's that sort of tension, I guess, sometimes. So I didn't know what I was doing, but what I was doing is I was studying Chinese. Oops. Shoot! Uh-oh. Perhaps that's a sign I should give up. I dropped my notebook in the water. Yeah.
Where?
Other people told me that I did nothing but experiments. And I don't think it was a compliment either. So what I've got here, what I just dropped, is my new version of Towards a Total Denunciation of Justin Trudeau, right? And part 4. And I've dropped it in the water. And what I'm just doing is just listing off things the reasons that people might have to dislike it. Just in point form. I'm just going to wander all over the place. Okay, number 1, the safe supply thing created a lot more heroin addict. It did. One weird statistic I got, and this was from a guy who works in this business and who supports safe supply, said that the cost of what they call Billy Aids or something like that, I don't know what it is, but it's It's really strong heroin, and the price of a tablet of it went from down at Simon Fraser University, right? Went down from $10 to $1. Dilly 8s, they're called. Oh, and the catch and release thing, the bail conditions are incredibly weak. Compared to most countries, we have very few people in prison, which sounds good, unless you're talking about repeat violent offenders, right? A government that can't keep repeat violent offenders in prison is not a government worth anything, in my opinion. Did you know that the Chinese Communist Party sent pilots here to train with our Air Force? We trained with the PLA, People's Liberation Army. They came and we trained them on stuff. So how does that look to the United States? I mean, there are Americans who take politics very seriously, and they don't have a great opinion of our country. Like you would think, just the one thing that he quite patently allowed the Chinese Communist Party to interfere in the election in substantive ways. We don't know how deep the influence went. So people who say, "Oh, it didn't affect the outcome," like you could have elected somebody else, we don't know that. But what did happen was really brazen and really awful. And there was a lot of it. We got a lot of evidence of different kinds. People being paid off. I think 11 MPs got money from the Chinese Communist Party. You know, that kind of thing. Okay, we'll never find out how much we paid for the vaccines. And the people who pay for it should get a chance to find out how much we paid. I bet it was too much. A lot too much. So I've got a bunch of stuff here. I got like, how much did it cost us Trudeau's charm offensive to get a seat on the Security Council? Remember that one? But what they did was they supercharged the economy by pumping so much money into it. Well, Bill Morneau said that he was giving away money at that time like he was trying to win a popularity contest. That's his own, his own party said that. 40% of that spending wasn't for anything related to COVID. Who knows how many billions of dollars that guy's just wasted. Just wasted billions. He wastes billions all the time. They don't speak in millions anymore. They speak in billions with so many things. I don't think that we'll get our money back from the Asian Infrastructure Bank. There was the infrastructure thing or something. In the first time that they got elected, they're bragging that they're going to do all these public works projects. Maybe they needed to be done, and I guess the economy needed a bit of a kick, so he's going to spend all this money on that thing. And the numbers are pretty extraordinary, but my understanding is that they didn't really keep track. Like, they don't know they know that the money went out, but they don't know if anything got built. And I think it's like in tens of thousands of projects. They have no idea what happened to them. Or they didn't earlier. Yeah, he supercharged the economy. And that caused the inflation rate to go up. Of course, it's not the only factor, right? Everybody understands that. But he really helped it along. And the carbon tax, I think, a real ideologue when circumstances, he doesn't change with the circumstances. Because I think most of the people agree that there does need to be things done about global warming. but Canada's 1.5% of the total. So, they talk as though, we're going to have fewer forest fires if we reduce our carbon emissions. Like, it's just nonsense level stuff like that. Really, really weak thinking. But yeah, it's, an ideologue because they don't care, that so many people are going to lose their homes. It doesn't faze them. They could be suspended for a year or two, I think, in circumstances like this. Just give everybody a break. So inflation caused the interest rates to rise, and they didn't lock in the low interest rates. So the interest rate on the Canadian debt was paying a higher interest rate. It's $43 billion a year on interest. That's not a good use of money. Paying interest to $43 billion. Is it?
Because he's, here is you're not here to make a friend, you're here to work.
Taxes go up. During the pandemic, 2 years in a row, he broke his own record for the number of new people coming into Canada. During the pandemic, 1 million for 2 years in a row. 2 million new people. I think that a pretty good percentage of those are working construction. Latino construction workers. There's a lot here. There's a lot of Latinos here.
No. We just need to.
It's a little bit intimidating. They're pretty macho.
He's been working in the kitchen last 13 years. He kind of surprised this is happening because he never but what he say, he keep firing. He can fire. No.
And he also broke the record for the number of federal employees. So the expense of federal service just ballooned. To do what? He hires consultants to do a lot of work. Now they're unionized, and that's going to be something we have to pay taxes on. I think that they promised a whole bunch of stuff, just billions again, billions and billions and billions again on the residential school thing. I think I heard something they're going to do this again. People in Canada are so nice, and they feel so guilty about what happened, in relation to that they don't dare say what they think. And it's not just that; it's also that they know that they could get in a lot of trouble for saying things that, even for saying things that are just perfectly normal. Like, you might get into a bit of trouble. You'd make people angry, I think, if you just said this. I think what I'm going to say is perfectly reasonable. Okay, I'm sorry. I just thought of another way to look at it. In a sense, it's about an apology, right? And for an apology of that magnitude to mean anything, it first has to be admitted what was done. And Canada's done that. It's admitted what it did and apologized for that, right? Quite a few times, and paid out, I don't know how many billions. I'm sure in relation to this, if you counted it all up, it's tens and tens and tens of billions of dollars to apologize. And you should be making a promise never to do it again. But we've endeavored, we've gone on this path to reconciliation, right? So that's a full apology. You've done it. You've apologized for what you actually did. You've done it publicly. You've tried to compensate the people that you harmed, right? So at some point, it's going to become more incumbent upon them, I think, to accept our apology and to quit asking for so much. Because I think that it's a little bit like the trans issue. Because what happened with the trans issue is that you kept the lid on that by preventing people from speaking honestly what they thought. You stuck the lid on that, while at the same time antagonizing the people who were bothered by it. Many good people who are just really afraid and disturbed by what's being done to children public schools. It's in a way, this is comparable to what happened in the residential schools. In that case, it was the church, and in this case, it's the public church of woke, which is the public education system. It's just absolutely bizarre what's happening. And I've seen it. I've seen the material. I would describe some of it. What I saw, to just put it clearly, is child pornography shared with children. Like in a more normal world, people who showed those images to whatever age their people were, it was soft pornography, showing it to kids. There's a bunch of real weirdos in the education system. There's no question about it. And when does the mainstream ever admit that we've got a point? I don't hear that. They're just describing people who have concern about what's happening to kids in the school, and they're calling them hateful. That's the general impression you get from the mainstream media, is that this pushback is just driven by hate. And they're missing the part about an increasing number of teenage girls having their breasts cut off. That's a big deal. That's a horrible thing. And I don't even know, it happens quite young, I think, sometimes. The reason that it's so bad is because everybody's on side. The medical system, you're not supposed to try at all to bring a kid back into alignment, his sex and his gender back into realignment. I don't think that they do that at all. They just affirm whatever the kid says. And the old practice was to let the kid explore in a situation where he wasn't judged too much, right? And the thing is that they've done it. They know that about 80% of them grow up to be gay people, and that's it. So what they're doing is they're sterilizing gay kids. Okay, so some kid gets sucked into this thing, and it's the school that probably recommends the doctor. So they put the idea in the kid's head. First of all, they put the idea in the kid's head, and then when he says, when he says what he knows will get a lot of attention, suddenly you're so special, right? That's how it's worked. But suddenly you're so special, and you get sucked into it. The number of kids they're going to be in that situation, and they grow up and realize, Jesus, the whole society let this happen. My parents and the people in my school, that when they start figuring out what happened, they're going to be really mad. And I'm sure that a lot of them are figuring it out. I've heard them speak. I'm not saying that there isn't. I think sometimes it actually does work. People are happier, but I think you're going to find a lot of the people are going to be changing their mind because. When they decided to do it, they were in a bubble of acceptance for this kind of thing, and they might not have heard what the criticisms are. Right?
But there's a little less.
There's a good Jordan Peterson and that woman that speaks so fast. What's her name? And she talks about how this has happened in history before. What happens is too much wealth makes people soft. And when they go soft, they have time to think about stuff. When people get the time to spend so much time on that, right? Some people just go a little weird, right? And they don't have some, real responsibility all the time. Yeah, so many people are being sterilized. There's all kinds of complications. They have to be on hormones the rest of their lives. they're going to be inventing new surgical procedures and stuff, new drugs for this, drugs for that, therapy of this kind. And it's going to be a massive win for the medical industry because they're going to have to we're going to have to pay the people who did this to these kids to now take care of them. I hope they do a lot better job. I guess they've forgotten the Hippocratic Oath thing. Seems like it. So I'm looking through my water salt book. Yeah, we've had pride parades and pride this, pride that for 50 years already. 50 years. I just say pride cometh before the fall, that kind of thing. Why are we celebrating pride? Especially now that what they're doing with it is they're creating animosity towards gay people. Like, they're not even helping gay people at this point. Definitely not. The flags, people are sick of seeing the flags. The flags are a symbol of the woke authoritarianism that we are sort of devoting our lives to opposing. The flag isn't just about celebrating gay people. So the other thing is, like, what are we doing celebrating any kind of sexuality for 50 years? A whole month devoted to pride. These huge parades and stuff. They get pretty weird, right? I've seen that too. I saw it about 2 days ago. It was awful. There were guys walking around and there were kids walking around, and it didn't make sense. Not at all. One of the guys, really fit young guy, and he's got a doggy hat on, and there's a leash, and some other guy is pretending to be a dog, running around in his underwear, and there's kids there. That's just one example. There was another case where the dad brought his son down there, and the guy's probably about 45, real partier, drinker, but fit, and a really good dancer. And so there's dad at the pride thing, opening it up and dancing. The best dancer there. And just ignoring his kid. He's just totally caught up in it. And the kid is there, and the kid seems to be, he's got real hippie clothes on, and he's trying to squirm around and be happy. That's not working for him, you can tell. So I really got into the nitty-gritty of it. What I did actually was I looked it up online, what artificial genitalia look like. It's pretty weird. With the fallen testosterone, there's probably quite a few kids born with, or you could be transgender. Maybe for you it's better to be transgender. I bet that happens a lot. That's really sensitive, right? There's a lot of, the whole thing is really sensitive. I hope that when people hear me talk about this, they can appreciate that I'm really sensitive. I mean, serious, I do. Seriously, I do. I went to the, it was a pride party, and then there was a protest, and then there was a counter-protest. And I think that every time I've been in these, I think every time, I've been in 3 of them, and one where they were just really screaming their heads off at each other. And I always just tried to say, do you think that we could just talk? could we have a, you know, a good conversation about these issues? Like, we'll tell you our concerns, and we can try to alleviate them, and then, you know, maybe we'll quit protesting. That sort of thing, right? And they were really nice. I think it sort of felt that they had found a calling or something like that, but there's, okay, maybe it was just one, but there was one that was willing to talk to me. It's kind of disappointing because they do exactly what you expect them to. If you suggest talking and they don't want to talk, so what are we supposed to do? If you don't talk, what are you supposed to do? It's just across the street talking to the other guys, and we're pretty copacetic. They're Indian guys, right? So why not just back off? Just back off. In my opinion, they shouldn't be allowed to teach anything about sexuality for at least 10 years. Your rights have been revoked. They need that kind of punishment. Like, we need to know what happened in the residential schools, and we need to know what's happening here.